you know what, man? I think TNA right now, they're on a roll. Legitimately, as far as like show quality, the show has been pretty damn good lately. I've really enjoyed the last couple of weeks. These Philly tapings, and then honestly the Chicago tapings, I thought have all been very good. Some of the booking stuff has been a little bit wonky, but you know what? Like even though they're wonky, they kind of make sense, you know. But I feel like it's been pretty good. So this week's show starts where last week's show ended, and it's cinematic style. And I thought it actually looked pretty, like, as far as like film quality, I thought it looked really good. Do we need to have the background music? No. I think the background music adds a layer of cheese, but I think this is what they're doing that's different than anybody else is doing. When they go cinematic backstage, they go full blown cinematic. It's like watching a movie or a television show. But it shows, so it starts where last week's show ended. We see Kazarian reacting to the system, questioning who attacked Nic Nemeth, and then he says, "Marks, hey, what are you filming?" Were the last words as the show went off the air last week. Well, this show started a continuation of that shot, which shows Ryan Nemeth holding a camera phone. It's just a phone. Every phone has a camera on it, buddy. Filming Kazarian with his phone. He pops up and asks what he's going to do about it. Nic Nemeth is then shown in a dark alley waiting for him, and he proceeds to beat him down until it's broken up. But then what this guy doesn't say, the recapper here, what he doesn't say is that Nemeth is like holding his arm, and that's how he's being written off television until Slammiversary, because during this taping weekend, he was in Australia, and so was Hammerstone, and so was Ash by Elegance, and I think Steph DeLander. They were all doing a tour for World Series Wrestling in Australia, which is another reason why I think Lou D'Angelo got fired, by the way, is because this Philly taping was not secured well enough in advance where they can get all their talent on the show. And that was like one of the problems was, you know, getting the dates locked in enough time to be able for the talents to be able to prepare to be there. But, you know, they were locked into this Australia tour, and I'm sure the Australia tour was pretty lucrative for them. They couldn't pass it up. So they had to blow off TNA. And that's another reason why they need to go live weekly, is to prevent stuff like this. Because you'll always know when you're booked for TNA, it's going to be, you know, every Thursday and then one Saturday a month. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool opening. And then we go right to Jordynne Grace. She has an open challenge. Okay, so they do the open challenge. She comes out, and then poor Jade Chung. I love Jade Chung. I think she's great. But they do this whole dramatic, like, introduction for Izzy Dame where they go, and her opponent. And then it's like quiet for like 30 seconds. And then it shows Izzy Dame. And like everybody's like, who the fuck is this? Because these young NXT talents are not stars yet. They're not. Like, so you can't treat them like they're these big stars because they're just not there yet. Now, if it was Roxanne Perez, so yeah, that you would do that. But it's Izzy Dame. Like, she's just right out of wrestling school. She's been on TV, like, but she's not a television star yet. So the TNA fans don't know who she is. So, but then they say from NXT, and then she gets the NXT graphic and logo, and like, here we're full blown in business. And out comes Izzy Dame, and she's like, you know, she's about the same size as Charlotte. She's like close to 6 feet tall. So, but she comes out, and I thought they had a pretty good match. You know, I think Izzy Dame has some talent. I don't see her being like a top star, to be honest with you. I think a lot of her movements are very awkward, and I think it's just because she's lanky, you know. And so I think she's gonna have a tough time breaking through that ceiling. But I think she'll be like a mid-level star. And of course, I'm judging based off of one match. But I thought this match was pretty good. But that it also makes sense that it was pretty good because it's Jordynne Grace, and Jordynne Grace is one of the best in the world right now. But I thought the match was good. And George Iceman comes out, and he says that Ash by Elegance is on vacation, but she's going to be watching from a beach somewhere. And it turns out she's in the Bahamas, and they have like a little graphic at the bottom corner with Ash by Elegance watching the match. So there you go. But the fans were into it. Fans were digging it. I like the crowd here. The Philly crowd was amazing. So, but yeah, Jordynne Grace gets the victory. Good match. And then we go to Santino Marell shown looking pumped up backstage ahead of an announcement he'll be making on the other side of the commercial break. And then when the show returns, he says the main event will be a wild card tag team match. And then they did this little deal where it was like he's like looking down. He's like looking down at nothing, but on the screen, it's like got this little pop-up thing, and it's like does like it goes through all the different guys in the 6-way match coming up at Slammiversary, and then it lands on each guy, and then like that's been the big wild card match. That's how they did it. I thought it was pretty clever. I've never seen anything like that before. I thought that was pretty clever, but like Santino kind of looks stupid in doing it. But anyway, the random name generator popped up, and it was Josh Alexander and Joe Hendry will be joining forces to take on Maclin and Moose. So, and then we go to the second NXT match of the night. So they came out hot, back to back. Hey, guys in the chat, did TNA end up in the top 150 this week? I don't think they did. So there's nothing that TNA can do right now to get them in the top 150 again. Access TV is just so low on the totem pole. It's just I don't think they're ever getting back into it regularly. I think they'll pop up accidentally sometimes, but them getting past the 0.01 rating is just not going to happen. But Charlie Dempsey came out for his match. He defeated Zachary Wentz with Trey Miguel. So for all of you guys out there, and I went on this whole rant last week about the culture war between AEW and WWE, and that spilling over and affecting not only TNA, but a kid like Charlie Dempsey because you don't like his dad, William Regal, because William Regal left AEW and went back to WWE. And a lot of people say, oh, Charlie Dempsey sucks because of that. I think Charlie Dempsey is pretty good. And in fact, I thought this was a pretty good match. I did not like the finish. I didn't feel like they needed to cheat to win here. Zach, look, take a look go to Cage Match and look up Zachary Wentz and TNA singles matches, not tag, singles. I don't think he's ever won a singles match in like, it's probably been over a year. You should have just had Charlie Dempsey beat him. But they did. They had to bring Miles Bourne out to do the interference, and then Dempsey got the victory. I know they're telling a story and they're trying to build heat and to connect the dots, but they could have just done a beatdown after the bell. But they're doing a lot of interferences, man, probably, and way too much, to where now we're going to get to a point where every match we're just going to be looking at the entrance, waiting for somebody to come down to interfere. You can't do that. It takes away from the matches. So with this match specifically, I think they should have just went 10 minutes and then had Dempsey beat him, because Zach Wentz loses to everybody. But I did think it was a pretty good match. We'll go to the end here. Dempsey hits a nice dragon suplex and goes to work on the arm of Wentz once again. He looks for the knee bar, but Wentz scrambles. Dempsey hits the German suplex into a bridge for a pin attempt, and that gets the count of 2. Wentz hit the ropes and blasts Dempsey with a knee strike that shifts the momentum into his favor. Wentz hits a big kick and grounded Dempsey and a running shooting star for another 2 count. Miles Bourne from the No Quarter Catch crew shows up at ringside and provides an assist, which leads to Dempsey picking up the pinfall seconds later. After the match, the No Quarter Catch crew beat down the Rascals some more, and that's going to lead to the Rascals coming up on NXT this week, and then they'll be on TNA next week. So brand synergy. And then the System, they're backstage, and they're dressed to the nines with gold over their respective shoulders. They talk about being an accomplished, dominant group, and then they both getting ready to ending the careers of the Hardy Boys after their return next week. And then Moose talks about Johnny Dango Curtis has been business tonight against Chris Bay and his own wildcard tag team main event alongside Maclin. So there you go. And then we go backstage. Dempsey and Miles Bourne are shown. Dempsey gloats about bringing back up after studying the Rascals and learning that they use numbers advantage to win. Marella then tells the No Quarter Cash crew that they will have a 6-man match next week, and their partner will be someone from our world who knows your world. And that turns out to be Kushida. And then this was match of the night by far, I thought, even though they did have some cheesy stuff, but I think the cheesy stuff actually worked here. Speedball Mike Bailey defeated Kushida and Jonathan Gresham to become the number 1 contender for the TNA X Division Championship. I love the match, but more importantly, I love the post-show angle. I thought this was great, and I started the show off with this week, and I'm going to be pounding the table every week. Speedball versus Mustafa Ali is the main event of Slammiversary. It is. It's the only match that has heat. PCO and AJ Francis a little bit, but that's like a 7-minute match. Like, you're not going to close the show with that. I think you give 25 minutes of Speedball and Ali, you put him in the main event, and you let him go. And that's your main event. That has heat. And Ali is doing such a great job of making me care about Speedball. He is so great. He's so great. In fact, I worry that AEW is going to take him. I do. Because we saw what happened this week with WWE coming after one of AEW's partners and taking Stephanie McCurry and getting her to bail on her dates, which is not cool. I think I could see AEW doing stuff like that to TNA, to be honest with you. I'd be like, hey, look, you know what? Let's just take Ali. Fuck it. I think AEW could absolutely come for Ali because he's great. He really is. He's got everything down. He was miserable in WWE. I don't see him going back to WWE. That guy was trying to get out of his contract for like 3 years. And I think we all assumed that he would be AEW bound, but AEW passed on him, and now he's in TNA, but he's not under contract. He's a freelance wrestler. So I think I could see AEW bringing him in. Yeah. So at one point during the match, and I did want to make note of this because I've been hating the Jonathan Gresham ink stuff, and I still think it's stupid. However, Jonathan Gresham was about to hit Kushida with the ink his face, and Kushida hit the green mist, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I think, you know what, I'm going to give credit to Lucha Doncic. I think this sounds like a Lucha joke, so I'm just going to give him credit because this is what Lucha does. But he said, they need to bring in the Hawk Tua girl now to be kind of like the special enforcer in a match between Kushida and Jonathan Gresham. I thought that was fucking great. And I don't know that Lucha said that, but I think it sounds like something Lucha would say, so I'm just going to give him credit anyway. But that was pretty fantastic. But yeah, after the match is over, Mustafa Ali, Campaign Singh and Ali show up with Ali's Secret Service. They attack Bailey and Trent Seven from behind. They hold Bailey while Ali yells, "Actions have consequences." And then Ali puts Seven in the sharpshooter, and then he's staring at him as the screen goes to black. All right, I'm gonna issue another stark warning to TNA, to Mustafa Ali, to Speedball Mike Bailey, to the city of Montreal and the province of Quebec. Do not allow TNA to try to do a Montreal screwjob angle. Do not do it. They're setting it up. They're absolutely setting it up. Don't do it. It's lazy and it's embarrassing. Don't embarrass yourselves like that. You're better than that. Okay. And then Steph DeLander is now shown on a beach in an old SNL Deep Thoughts style scene. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And she's showcasing the key moments of her ongoing love journey with PCO. She says she needs to go home to Australia and tie up some loose ends. She has one question for PCO. Will you wait for me? After this wraps up, the commentators promote the Hardy Boys versus the System for TNA Tag Team Championship for next week's show. I don't know what it is, but I like this PCO Steph DeLander thing. I think PCO is going to beat AJ Francis. But I think this whole thing is leading up to Cardona making his return when he gets back from injury, and Steph DeLander turning on PCO and joining forces with Matt Cardona. And I think that's a good angle. AJ Francis defeats Rhino in a Philadelphia street fight. So it was actually like a regular match. And then Rich Swann interfered. So Santino comes down, makes it into a street fight, which only benefited AJ Francis because now Rich Swann can just interfere more. So the whole thing ended up being stupid. But the Philly crowd was, up for it because it's, Rhino, and it gave those idiots a chance to chant ECW. But yeah, he got the victory. He and Swann continue to beat down Rhino afterwards. The lights go out. PCO appears behind First Class for Big Pop. He attacks Francis and begins to beat him down, but ends up dumped out to the floor. Francis gets in his face and holds up the International Heavyweight Championship, and he desires, before leaving him laid out on the ramp. I just want to let you guys know, I've been calling for this for a while, but Rick Martel took to Twitter and acknowledged this angle and was doing a thing online where he's pissed off. If they bring in Rick the Model Martel, legendary former champion, WCW TV AEW World Heavyweight Champion, former International Heavyweight Champion. I'm going to pop huge because I love Rick Martel. I think he's fantastic. Swig of coffee for the Rick the Model Martel. I think he's still feuding with Tito Santana, to be honest with you. All right. Giselle Shaw then defeated Tasha Steelz. This match was lifeless. It wasn't a bad match. They're both good wrestlers, but there's like nobody cared. It was a fine match. But Shaw hit a cutter and a close range knee, and then got a finisher for a pinfall victory in a quick and basic match. Yeah, there was I don't know. It was just a match. It was fine, just kind of a filler match. So there you go. And then Jim Miller interviews Zaya Brookside. Brookside talks about how Alicia Edwards cost her a win in her last in-ring performance on Impact. She vows to get revenge, and then she's asked about Steph Deland and if she'll be able to come back from the heinous attack from First Class. Brookside says she will, and that one thing is true for sure: true love conquers all. So there you go. And then Johnny Dango Curtis, in a blasphemous act, defeats Chris Bay. So JDC catches Bay at the perfect time, sending him off the ropes and crashing and burning down below to the floor. Ringside fans chant loudly that you suck as JDC gloats. Back in the ring, Bay walks right into a Donkey Konging from JDC, who settles into a comfortable offensive lead. Myers, Edwards, and Alicia Edwards are shown slowly making their way down to ringside as JDC uses some moves on Bay, and then the system members end up in a brawl with Austin on the floor, which draws the attention of Swan. That's Swan Bay, who hits a top rope splash out to them at ringside as the cast continues outside of the ring. JDC quickly finishes off a distracted Bay for the win. The show heads into another commercial break. Hey, the recapper here kept calling Chris Bay Rich Swan, so that screwed me up. All right, let's go to the main event. Main event, again, a second week in a row. Joe Hendry, the most over guy on the show. I did not think that his pre-match promo was very good, though. I just didn't think it was very clever. He said that Steve Maclin was doing tag him, bag him, and the only thing he'll be bagging is his groceries. I just didn't think that was a good line. I would have said you'll be teabagging my balls or something like that. I would have went that way. But I didn't think it was a good line. Coming off of that appearance on NXT, I don't know that I would have had Joe Hendry lose this week, but he's not the one that got pinned. And they were smart the way they did it, where they had Frankie Kazarian distract Joe Hendry, and Maclin Moose shoves Josh Alexander into Hendry. Hendry has to leave the match. Moose hits a spear on Josh Alexander, and then Steve Maclin hit the mayhem for all. They were smart in having Steve Maclin pick up the pin, knowing that I just can't bitch about it because Maclin won. So Maclin pinned Josh Alexander. I thought the match was pretty good. Wasn't the match of the night. Look, they're just setting up the big six-way match, and they're trying to get heat on Kazarian. So I think it's very clear that Moose is going to retain at Slammiversary, and Kazarian's going to somehow screw Hendry, and then Hendry's going to get his win back at like Victory Road or Emergence or one of those shows coming up. But I thought this was a pretty good main event, and I dug it. I thought the whole show was pretty good. They had some valleys, there was some stuff that just wasn't interesting, but I think overall a very good episode. I think everybody should go out of the way to watch. Good stuff. Next week they got the System versus the Hardys, which was, out of everything that was done in Philadelphia, I think this was the most heated match of the weekend. And then they got Rascals and Kushida versus No Quarter Catch Crew. And then unfortunately we have Alicia Edwards versus Zaya Brookside. So that was the whole show, man. I thought it was a pretty damn solid episode, and I think they got a lot of stuff going on right now. They got a lot of stuff cooking, and I'm excited for Slammiversary next week. So Slammiversary next week, I will be watching late night, like after the fact, because I have a family obligation on Saturday that I did not know about until yesterday, to be honest with you. So I was planning on watching it live and then going live right afterwards. So I'm going to watch it, and then I will go live on Sunday night at some point. So like I'll come home, like we have like family stuff in the morning and then like in the afternoon. So it'll be like Sunday evening your time, and I'll be recording it early afternoon my time on the 21st. So but should be a fun show, man. I'm looking forward to Slammiversary. I think is next week the go home. What's the date right now? 13. Yeah. So 1 week from today. So next week is the go home. So should be good. A good show next week, and we got the Hardys versus the System. So gonna be awesome. All right, guys. Hey, I think we said it all. That's gonna do it for me this week. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for the chat, man. I really appreciate you guys. And until next week. Hold on, let me get my button. And until next week, mahalo.